I've had a lot of background noise. I'm hoping it stops. I got the wind. I got my neighbor's gardener. I got children. Hopefully you don't hear anything. And it's all kind of gone for rest. We are now going to our second phase of modeling the head. We've done what I call the cano mask. We've done the eye, the brow, the forehead, and the upper cheek, or the apple of the cheek. If any of you have done some sort of cosmetology class, you'll probably know terms better than me, or some sort of human anatomy class. There's a lot of places of the face I'm going to be referring to as less than scientific, and if you know them, please share them. I like to learn them all. So, let's see. All right. So, today we're going to start with the mouth. We're going to be doing half of it. We're going to come up here. That's going to be really short, and then we're going to come down to our chin, build it out to the side, and then we're going to do the profile of our nose, and then we're going to reach that around. We're going to start off with the Create Poly tool, and then we're going to be doing a few more new tools you might not be familiar with. There's a thing here called an edge ring split, and that's with a little hotkey, and then there's also an append tool and a target weld tool that'll help us connect things, and that's going to be near the end with the nostril. But a lot of it is the same. It's always kind of the same, and if you look at the different videos I provided on Canvas with other people, they all approach it slightly differently, but it's always the same principle of extruding out an edge, manipulating a vertice, and then extruding out more edges. So it's always extrude edges, vertices, extrude edges, vertices. Some people do the order differently. Some people stick to certain tools, but it's always that pattern. So just stick to that, and you'll be fine. Before we get going, I want to talk about locking and hiding the camera. Talk about shading your reference image, and then I always wind up changing the vertex size for my demonstration so you can see what I'm pushing and pulling better, and students like to use sometimes a larger vertex. So I'm going to show you that too. And this is what we're doing. I'll be referring back to this. So let's get started by taking care of our setup. So careful. You might have been in camera mode, and you're going to start looking around in camera mode, and you're going to pull your camera off of your NURBS, and then it's not undoable, and you have to reset your camera. So let's finish taking care of our camera. So I'm going to go to perspective, up here in the top, perspective, and I have my camera, and I have my NURBS. I'm going to lock both. So even though they're keyframed and spinning around, I can lock them, and that will stay put. So I'm going to go to my camera here and choose lock. And because it's parented, lock, it will still move with the NURB. And just to be safe, I'm going to go to my NURB circle here and lock those. If I ever needed to change it, I could right click and choose unlock. But I'm just going to lock them, not lock and hide. The way I like to hide it, you could hide this several ways. You could like put a negative frame here on the left-hand side and keyframe it on there, and then on frame 1, keyframe it off. That's one way to do it. You could also just hide things. So I could go here and show, and then on my viewport, I'm going to hide the curve, and then show on my viewport, I'm going to hide the camera. You're going to hear me say this a lot. There's more than one way to cut a mango here in Maya. So I'm going to choose, where's camera? I just got distracted with my little saying. There it is. Boop. All right. And now I won't accidentally grab them, and if I go looking through my camera view, I am trying to alt middle mouse click and slide around, and it is locked, so I can't mess up my own situation. Okay, back to perspective. So we've got our little Kano mask going, and now I'm going to start with my mouth. But before I start with my mouth, I want to show you a few more tricks. There's one more thing I forgot to add, and if I skip over it because I'm doing too many things, I want to show you how to change your origin colors. So I've hid the camera. I've locked the camera. Another thing you might need to come across every once in a while is on your images, you might want to tame them down. They might be too bright, and you might want to make them a little darker. I can do this by going to the attribute editor. Excuse me, take off the character editor, and I can pull down the color gain, and I can just kind of make them darker. So I can crank those up and down as I see fit. So I might mellow them out a little bit right now. just to kind of get started. So I'm a little bit more muted. All right. And checking my list, shading references, and vert size, and making the display port. So to change your grid color, it's as simple as going to Display, Grid, Options. And this is quite handy to do the axis. So right here it says color. I can do my axes, and I like to make my axis, that's the X, Y, and Z plane on my orthographic views. I like to make them yellow. You could do a whole bunch more. You can change your grid to be like like every fifth one to be a darker color. You can have some fun with how big you want your grid, but I find the key thing here is the yellow or the center grid line, especially while demonstrating. Having it an off color than a dark gray really kind of helps serve as reference points. Should have shown you that last class, but you got it now. I'm gonna close that, and then lastly, another thing I like to do is I make my vertice points a little bit bigger while I'm demonstrating, and then several students have appreciated it. So you can change how these show up. If I go to Display, Polygons, and Vertex Size, and I can kind of make those bigger, just so you can kind of see where I'm at. But now it looks like a big old mess when I get to the inside of my eye, so I do kind of move them and change them as we go. But just so they're a little bit bigger so you can see them and they're a little bit easier to grab. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to do a save as. Command-Shift-S. I'm going to go to my desktop, into my folder, and I'm going to call it, I'm no longer at the setup or the nose. I'm going to call it mouth start. Okay. Now, again, everything's kind of the same and everything's kind of a bit different. So I am going to start on my front view again. I'm going to hit 5 just so you can see it all, right? I'm going to start with Create Poly again. And I'm just checking that my front image is getting split right down the middle. And it looks like it's not. Do I need to unlock it? I do. So I'm going to unlock it. It's matching my eye. Do I need to move it over? Let's find out. Let's take a look. Oop. I thought I unlocked you. Unlock. There you go. I'm going to grab this, hit W. And do I need to move it just a little? If I move it over, it's going to... There you go. Just a slight... Everything's still kind of aligned there. We're going to leave it like that. All right. Remember, it's really more of a guideline than a rule. Okay. Here's my mouth. Now, the trick with the mouth is you're going to be tempted to start similar to the eye and trace where the cavity is, right? No. You're going to want to trace the outer part of the lip first, and then you're going to extrude it outward and inward. We're going to do a few new tricks. The concept eventually will be the same of extruding, manipulate the vertex with a few new twists. So instead of doing the cavity here with my mouth at the gape, I'm going to do the outside of my mouth. And I'm going to start with the middle point of what they call the Cupid's bow of the lips. This little dip that most people have in their lips. Not everyone, but most people have that Cupid's bow. So right there, okay? Again, at my corner, I'm not going to have it come to one point. I'm going to have two very short edges together. And I'm going to trace that around. So once again, we're going to go to Create Polygon. And I'm going to start right there in the middle. I'm going to go 1, up to my Cupid's bow, 2, somewhere down here in the middle lip. Now, lots of people do have that little dip in the top part of their lip, which is sometimes it's very drastic. That's a good point to kind of, a good reference point. If you have a beard like me, you're just hopefully making some good guesses here. Because I'm not going to shave for this project, right? Now, the corner of the lip, remember, it's going to be 1 here, and then I'm going to pull that to that corner, and now I'm going to go out here, over here, and my lip. Everyone's lips are everyone's different. And then I do have a point here, and enter. Now, I do want to make sure that I have the right vertices on the top and the bottom. The eye was an octagon. This one is similar. So this guy and this guy have a partner. I have one extra vertex down here at the bottom, which might lead to some trouble. So what I want to do is provide one more vertex here if you wanted to start over, or you can just add a vertex with a multi-cut tool. So I'm going to pull that up and pull that here. I'm going to use a multi-cut and just hit enter. And now I got an extra vert. So if you ever needed, so I'm just trying to match them up so that later, like that. Okay. Now I'm set. Okay. Gonna flip that. So if I go back to object mode and I can make it gray, mesh display reverse, and now it's gray. And now before I do anything else, I do want to kind of shape it with the top view, which is a new move, and comparing it to the side view. So I'm going to go to my four split. I'm going to pull this down so I can see it a little better, and I'm going to pull this forward. And my lip is usually on top. All right. Now I got to make these vertices a curve. And remember to always start on your outside vertex and work your way towards the mouth. So I'm going to pull this back. And then if you hear my children talking, I'm apologizing. They're deciding what their lunch is as I am making this video. And then these two in the center, I'm going to pull those back a little. And then these two are usually the most forward part of the lip. Okay? And I get this nice curve. That is a reflection of what is actually happening. Maybe not so far back. The video that I posted with mine of the first one with the lady in the picture, he does a really good job, and he really knows his human anatomy well. There you go. And he does half of this based off of what is already built. Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to this guy for a second and hit vertex. This vertex is a little in the way. Move it up and over. Put him in one mode too. All right, and then back to my mouth. All right. Step one. This guy's a little bit off. Get that guy back in there. I could do the Konami code or the move X minus tool. I'll do that later. Okay. My first extrusion, instead of doing bit by bit like I did with the eye, which creates this nice little eyelid bulb part, I'm going to do a big extrusion to kind of make the right space, and then do an edge loop to kind of fill that, to kind of create some more geometry. So I'm going to click from here to here. So every edge, oops, or I can just click the whole bit. Every edge except for the one on the axis, right? And I'm going to extrude this out all the way to the nose. Command E. And I'm going to, you can do this one of two ways. You can use the green arrow, or you can go global and use the scale tool, right? Everyone's got a different opinion. I like to pull that out, pull that over, right? And I can switch it again to global and pull it up again. All right. Something like that. Okay. If it's really freaking you out that you have this gap on the face here, you can delete it now, but I like to keep it. But if you want to delete it right now because it looks weird, it looks like you're in the Matrix when he gets his mouth shut, go for it. But this vertex here is going to go to the middle of the nose. This vertex here is going to go to the nostril. This vertex here is going to go to the inner part of the nostril. And I might need to make another geometry. And now that one is going to be there. So these start to fan out. There is this jowl line. Oh, I forget the name of it. It's like a nasal something line. This line right here, where the kind of the apple of the cheek is kind of brushing against the nose and the upper mouth. There's a name for that line. That's a good reference point to kind of build off of. And me having this beard is a great reference point for where I should kind of build this circle out. Something like that. Right? Now it's all flat. I definitely want to change some of this curve, but it is, because I did one big extrusion, it's following the natural curve I already gave it a little bit. And so these are all lining up pretty good already. I'm just kind of checking my perspective view. Maybe push that guy a little further back. And this is my cheek, so this should go forward a little bit more. This is that little, you know, depending on your face shape, this might protrude out. Now, I do have the problem of beard hair getting in the way. So I'm kind of guessing these shapes. Something like that. Now, edge loop. So I definitely need a bit more geometry here to kind of sculpt this out. And an edge loop is going to help me create that little dip that goes underneath the lip. This edge loop is going to help create the shape that from your lip down to between your chin and a few other points. So I'm going to go mesh, insert edge loop, and drag and grab that right there. And then a lot of this usually comes in. So if I just take all of it for a second. And now I'm going to vertex by vertex again. Whew. Oh, come on. There you go. And these right here especially get tucked in. That's what creates that lip protruding. And again, I have to guess a little bit because of my beard hair. So I'm just going off of what I know. I'm going off of what it looks like here. And I'm also starting to think about how they're going to get connected. I'm not going to connect them yet. Okay, and then my cheeks definitely puff out afterwards, so a few extrusions here. All right, now we're ready for our inner lip, right? Or this part of the mouth, the lips, not the inner lip, the outer lip. I'm going to delete that face, and I have a very big gap in that mouth, which does look weird. So now I'm going to go grab from this edge, shift click to that edge. Oops. Let's do that one more time. Shift click to that edge. So I have all of the inner rings. I'm going to hit extrude. And again, I'm going to pull them in with the green arrow and keeping it, this is the local direction. And I'm going to pull them in until I get, this cross is going to be fun to untangle, right? You see that triangle right here? Right? So just keep track of that. And now, once again, guess what we're going to do next? If you said vertex, you're right. Right click, oop. Right click, vertex mode. Get off of that, off of that. I grab that vertex. And now I'm just lining these up. The magic's going to happen on the side view and the perspective view. And then this one has to go down. So in my extrusions, there we go. Now my lower lip is bigger than my upper lip, and I might need to split that. I just want to line those up first. And now, these all need to kind of go back a little bit. So I'm going to start with, actually, this might not need to go back. I can add an edge loop here. I'm happy where these two corners are. Maybe make them a little smaller. Maybe tuck them in a little bit more. That's going to be a really tight ridge right there. These two, you want to think of them in pairs, right? That's definitely coming in. And then, but this part of your lip does protrude out, right? This little edge of the Cupid's bow. I'm going to leave that there. And these parts need to come back. Way back. There we go. I was looking at the wrong picture. All right. Let's see where those are at. Oh, way back. All right. And it looks like my pictures are a little off. That's okay. Okay. So another thing I like to do sometimes is I grab the vertex here, but I'm looking at this one. So I'm clicking these verts, but looking at this one. And always kind of check your perspective view just to make sure everything's kind of on the up and up. And I'm going to do one more edge loop here. Mesh tools, insert edge loop, and that makes a nice lovely circle right there. And then this one usually needs to kind of come out a little bit to create that poofier lip shape. And again, everyone's lips are a little bit different. So back to vertexes. It looks like my lower lip needs to kind of scoot back a little. There we go. And I remember there is this, your lip does hang out and protrude a little bit here. You're going to be tempted sometimes to push some of these back. But you will wind up touching your own face, wash your hands. But this is looking pretty good. How's that looking? Matching up with those. A little further back. Oh, come on. Yeah. Something like that. Okay. Next. I don't want to extrude anything out over here, but I want to just kind of complete my jaw and my chin. So one thing you're going to start doing is you're going to start finding matches between here and here, right? So an obvious thing that's going to happen is this corner and this corner are going to start matching up, right? They're awfully close to each other. That's a good fit, right? So what might wind up happening is you might need a little more geometry on one spot or the other. And if you looked at my old example, I actually have a triangle or two. So that's going to be part of our plan out here. So just a future side note. But let's finish the chin, and get kind of this jawline. Now, I'm only going to require you to get to here, if you can see where I'm pointing. Only to this part here. If you wanted to kind of wrap it over and build a neck out, you could, if you got that kind of time. But if you just get to the jawline and kind of just a little curve over for this jaw area, that's all you really need for this exercise. It does look a little weird to have like this severed head. So sometimes the jaw is a little easier to kind of extrude out. And I'm going to do these 4. We're going to learn another trick later that lets you kind of meld different vertices and edges together. So without further ado, I'm going to extrude out here. And when it comes to this sort of modeling, less is more. So I'm going to pull this out, and this should kind of go to my chin. So similar to what we did here, we extruded a big one and then added edge loops. I want you to kind of keep that philosophy going, where you have one edge kind of pulled way out, and you figure out that spot, and then if you need a little bit more of a curve, you're going to add an edge loop. And again, this beard is proving challenging. Oop, there we go. And that indicates I need to kind of pull that vertex in a little. Up. All right. That's looking good here. Following my jawline. Everyone likes to look at the jawline, huh? Right? This is a exercise in self-worth. And now I'm going to pull these back a lot. Remember, a little goes a long ways here. The less, I'm not making the superest high poly mesh, just to kind of practice this exercise and to keep it simple. Low poly winds up good, right? And you rely on the curve or the smooth mode. Now, here's where we get to the fun part. As you build this stuff out, you do want to kind of keep track of what's going where. So these aren't connected yet. We are eventually going to connect them. These don't have the same, I'm going to display polygon vertex size and make these a little bit bigger. There we go. That's why I was having some trouble. That's the reason. So, for example, 1 to 1. I have this bridge here. And then, so what I want to do is, these guys are obviously connected. So I have no place for this vertex to go. So if I don't consider this, I'll wind up pinching into a triangle, which is not ideal. So I'm going to grab these two edges to finish out this, like, this is the cheek of the apple. This is the apple vacuum, not the cheek space, the cheek gap. There's a name for that. Anyway, the empty structure of the cheek. I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to pull this out, and then bring it back in. And someone's going to be saying, but you got this big old gap here. So let me introduce you to another tool. There's two tools we're going to use to connect stuff. One tool is called append, and the other tool is called target weld. I haven't had to show you edge ring split yet, but I'll get there. So with this, I'm going to do a target weld to this vertex, and then they're all one piece. So right click vertex, I'm going to go to mesh tools, target weld, and I'm just going to grab here, and it always, well, unless you hit the options, and actually the options I want to show you, there's a target versus center option. So right now it's set to, what I click on will move to what I release to. So if I move to that one, it goes to there. The center one averages the distance, but I'm going to go here. And that is looking pretty good. And now these match up. So what I could do is I can do one more edge. And these are going to wind up coming to this next set right here, and then one more right here. So two more extrusions for this edge set, and then I'm going to clean this off. I'm going to wind up with what's called a node, but we're going to be okay with that. Actually, let's start with these two. I'm going to build that out, pull that forward, pull it back. And these I'm not going to connect yet. That's next lesson. Right? You can see the shapes are kind of mismatching. That's all right. Pull these forward a little bit more. And we're going to clean that up later. 1, 2. Got one more edge count over here. Pull that back. So these two are going to line up together. All right. Now with my vertexes, I can clean these up and over. And if they're not perfectly lined up, we'll get there. Don't worry. It's good to kind of get the big stuff out of the way and then refine. Now, this one's going to be, we're going to leave this here and we'll talk about this part later. But I can pull that down and now I have this stretched zone that will wind up being my jawline. So I'm kind of borrowing a corner and kind of turning it into like, so instead of having a try, I'm kind of melding out a long trapezoid here. I'm going to stretch out some geometry to make that work. This is going to be better than the other option, which is a triangle. And then these need to move back, down and back. This guy's going to go down and back. This guy's going to go down and back. So extrude edges, manipulate vertices. Extrude edges, manipulate vertices. Over and over again. If you're wondering about, while I'm cleaning this up, isn't AI going to fix this eventually? Or with the scanning, can I just scan my head? What winds up happening is you scan your head and the mesh is a mess. The mesh is like infinite amount of triangles. So you wind up doing a very similar process over a super fine mesh, and you retopologize it manually. The retopo tool, I haven't checked out the latest iteration of it, but it's always been a little problematic and hasn't been able to fully solve everything yet. And now we've done the chin, the jaw, the jowl. We've done the chin, jaw, and jowl by extruding and messing with some verts. It's not perfect. We're a little off model. We will polish through these just to get these basic shapes out. Now we're going to move on to the nose, and each video does the nose differently, and we're going to start venturing into some other tools with target welding, filling holes, multi-cuts, appending maybe. So the couple of the other videos I provide, they do things slightly differently, and there's, like I say, more than one way to cut a mango. But again, it's the same principle: extruding, manipulating the vertices, extruding, manipulating the vertices. What I've noticed and what I like to do is I like to start with extruding out this one edge. So that's going to be my game plan, let you know early. Extrude this edge up and tracing the nose up to about my brow, right? Somewhere right around here. I do want to keep in mind my geometry here. And so, can I hit 2? Can I see those? And so I want to try to do this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, 6 extrusions. If I have more, I'm going to have to cut more, because that's 6 is very minimal here. When I run into these problems, you'll see what I do with the multi-cut. Okay. So I like to extrude out from this edge right here. Here we go. So I'm going to hit Command E, and I'm going to, let's see, just move this guy along globally to about right there. I'm going to be in one mode. I'm going to hit 5 so I can see it a little more clearly. And I'm just going to trace my nose. I already know I'm going to go over 6, so I'm going to run into a problem. I did that very cleanly up here. So anyway, and extrude. I'm going to hit global. Just trying to trace these points. Might not even need to do much else. Just keep it on the side view. So we really want to get you guys a nice, right there. Extrude again. So if you're concerned about poly count, or if you're concerned about tries or nodes, we will get to cleaning those up later with even more tricks. But let's keep going. And then some people have that ridge. There's a name for that. You'll probably need a few extra extrusions. I got a pretty straightforward nose right here. My nostril gets more complicated though, and do one more up to the top. Let's leave it right there for right now. Okay, there's my nose. That's the outline of my nose from the side view. And now, there's a couple different ways to think about doing the nostril and the bulb here. So we could start thinking about connecting them and bridging things together, but I like to start by looking at just starting with the nostril. So this is going to get extruded out and connected, and this is going to get extruded out and connected. Or I can extrude these two out and connect them this way. So you're going to notice I tend to like target weld. To me it's a very, I like having that kind of control. So I just target welded that vertex under mesh tools, and then this is going to be the underside of my nostril. And we will start covering that up. Bring that in, and yes, something like that. Okay, starting to get that shape there. Eventually I'm going to cut out a hole here with some extrusions and some other stuff. But for right now, and these pictures are a little off, as always, that's always going to be the case. I'm going to extrude these 3 edges now, and that's going to slowly form up to here, and then I'm going to extrude 1 edge and then 2 edges, right? So the other thing I could do is I could extrude out this way. Extrude those up, pull those up. That's going to be 1. I'm going to target weld all together. I'm going to get my shape going here. Extrude up again, going on up. And notice I'm trying to match what I did before. So 1, 2, tuck those in a little. And yeah, do another one. Global. So I like to control it on the perspective view. Wow. Manipulating it on these two views, and that way I can kind of get a good picture. I might stop here and count a few things out, and then game plan that. This part I might extrude out from these edges. These edges here might get an extrusion outward. It looks like I need to pull these down back a little. There we go. There we go. Okay. Let's connect those. Vertex. You can target well with edges. I just prefer doing it with vertexes. And I am always dragging my vertices to, because I know that line, this set of faces and edges along what I trace the nose with first, that's fairly accurate. So I like to trace to there and let the computer do the work. And that's what we're trying to do. All right, it looks like this guy. Get some whoop, get over here too. And things got to start tucking in. There is going to be this rather steep crease right here once we unify everything. But for now, we're just going to... This is the fun thing. We're going to break a few rules that we did in our beginner class, which you're trained not to do because it is a pro gamer move. And but now that you are there at that level, you can start to start breaking some of those rules that you were trained to avoid in your previous class. This one needs to get a little more. I always like to check it on 3. It's getting there. This node, this is what we call a node, where there's a lot of edges coming in here. We're gonna have to fix that. But not right now. We're just gonna keep going. I might have to split that up. That's gonna be a problem here. All right. Okay, here's what I'm going to do now. I know, ooh, that vertex is way off. Let me get that guy cleaned up. There. Is that looking, that's looking pretty nose-like. Mr. G's got a big nose. So, I know that eventually this is going to get up to here. So, I can extrude and then connect. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to extrude. I got 1, 2, 3 to finish this off. I'm going to extrude and lift up. Maybe get closer to that. I'm going to extrude again and lift up. And you're going to see, someone might be noticing a problem. If you are, very observant of you. If you haven't, don't feel bad. It's something that a new advanced modeler wouldn't figure out. All right. Let's target weld, fill this hole, and start breaking some stuff up. So I'm going to go here to edge. I'm going to target weld those two edges together. Mesh tool, target weld. And now this part, I got a triangle right here. I'm going to cut this in a second. So there's a couple of things you can do here. Fill hole and cut, extrude and target weld, or append. Actually, to preserve this okay, I'm skipping around a lot, but the astute observer might be noticing I have not way, a few more vertices here than here. Okay, so I could just start cutting on this side and when they match up, but again, we're gonna worry about that later. So what I really want to do is not deal with this triangle. So what I could have done is not merge that edge. Undo, undo, undo. It's your best friend. Keep going. How many steps did I do? There you go. And kind of pull these back and shrink these down. And then, but I also have this edge here. So I am going to extrude these out and merge them. But I have one more. All right. Pull that in. Just so you can see what I'm doing a little bit. Yeah. All right. Let's do this. I'm going to grab this edge here. Oop. Extrude this out one more time. Pull it. So now I got this gap here. And then I'm going to, let's do 2. So I have a really tight space right here. Mesh tools, we'll clean that up later. Target weld here to here. Oops, target weld here to there. Double click this ring. Mesh fill hole. Not sure if you guys know that one. And now I can cut with my mesh tools, with my multi-cut. 1, 2, enter. And then 1, 2, enter. And now I can start filling in this geometry and moving this around. But what's going to happen is when these two get connected, I'm going to get that guy. There he is connected. All right, pull him down a little. This is going to start to peel upward when we connect the two. So I'm just going to leave these up and let this count. Ooh. Sorry, if you're following along and going, what is this guy doing? This will get fixed later. You need to just trust me on that one. Trust me. All right. Yeah. Let's get the nostril and let's play blast this thing in. So, I'm going to hit 3. We're dealing with one problem at a time. So, it does look funky without a nostril. Depending on your nostril size and geometry, you might want 1 face, 2 face, 3 faces. I'm going to start with 2. I reserve the right to go with 3 here. So I'm going to grab 1, 2, 3 faces in one mode and hit extrude. And I like to do what I call the flat extrusion, which makes this nice little flat panel here. I got a lot of geometry to work with for my nostril. And then I'm going to delete those faces. Wonderful. Now, these got to come way over, because I do want this to kind of go back to my actual size. And now this one's going to come way over. And what'll happen is this looks a little funky when you hit 3 mode, if you wanted to hit 3 mode. Right? And then my nostril flares upward, and I'm not going to be touching and tracing my nose like I did for other parts of my face, because I feel like that's just going to gross you out. And how are we doing? Again, it's very tight when I'm. Ooh, what happened here? Let's get this guy going. There. And now I got a little bit more to work with, and then I'm going to fill that out later. So one last thing before we want to say that our nostril is done is you don't have to go all the way up and close it off. But if I hit 3, it looks rather funky. To get that to hold its shape a little bit more. Let's go back to my front. You can pick your friends, and you can pick your nose. You can't pick your friend's nose. I'm going to get these up. These all need to be higher. This is Mr. G's nostril flare. Where am I at here? Ooh. Good. Okay. Got that part fixed. Bring that down. I'm glad I did that before I should. All right. There. Except for that part. Pull you out more too. Yes. Yes. Okay. Sorry if I do that too much in class. All right. I'm going to fix that with an edge loop later when I'm fixing that. I keep pointing that problem because I know that it is one there and it's bugging me, but I don't want to. That's a deep dive we're going to have to fix. All right. Here with my edges, I'm going to click, get that surrounding circle. And what's going to happen is it's going to look a lot better when I hit Command E and then pull it up a little bit. And that gets it to hold its shape, right? Oh, much better. And we can pull it in. Sometimes, like me, it gets a little wider even, so I can kind of flang it out. Just to kind of get it to hold its shape. And one more time. Similar to how you did an eye socket with your character last. I can shrink it in a little bit. How am I doing on one mode? You also want to make sure it's not poking through. I've done that. And then you could do a fill hole. Mesh fill hole. And because it's on the inside of your nose, if you leave this as a N-gon, you might be okay. But if you wanted to clean it up and be nice, you can do that too as well with multi-cut. So we can go back here, and I'm going to go to Mesh Tools Multi-Cut, and I'm going to show you a trick next video with multi-cut where you kind of carve out like that. And there we go. I got a triangle. I didn't want to do that. All right. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, is that it? If I need to make another one, I'll show you that trick later. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That felt too easy. 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. We are set. All right. That is ready to be play blasted in. Thank you. That's not bad. I got to get a few more details and creases in here. We're going to deal with that later when we get to the full head being merged together. But all in all, we are well on our way. I got a little problem there. Want a little bit more nostril there. But we're headed. We're in the right spot. All right. So then I just go to panel, perspective, switch it to camera, play blast that out. Up to you if you want to be in 1 mode or 3 mode. Up to you if you want to have the geometry on or off. The next video we're going to do, I'm going to play blast this out. Play blast. I'm going to say self-portrait. Self-portrait. Mouth. Nose. And eye. Oh my. And go ahead and put your last name on it. And oops, I didn't. Hold on. I made the rookie mistake. Now I'm gonna hit a desktop. I'll call it 421 self-portrait. Mouth or mouth nose. Self-portrait 2, I should say. We're on phase. We've just completed phase 2. And congratulations, we're almost there. The next part is the ear. We're gonna do the ear separately, right there, and that's gonna be painful. Once you have the ear built, we start connecting everything and start dealing with all of the other issues that are gonna come up from our thing. All right, I will see you later, and I hope you're enjoying this whole project. All right, bye.